Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Observable Flutter. My name is Craig Labenz, and I'm your host. And today we're going to have a fairly casual episode. I'm going to restore an old library that I wrote in 2019-ish. Late 2019, I think, is when I was working on this. And I have not looked at it since null safety, when I gave it a hasty null safety update. And so I think it's probably going to be pretty dusty, but it's going to be a lot of just kind of hanging out, talking about stuff. If today's going to be a pretty casual episode. It's a week before a holiday and before the US really gets into the holiday season. So before we get too far along, I do want to remind everyone that this is the Flutter community, and we all know the standards that we set for ourselves. All right. So the library. Let me pull it up. Oh, there's at least one vote that this might not be a stinky episode. I hope so too. What's this? Was I doing my hair? I don't do my hair. I don't do anything to my hair. I cut it, actually. I cut my own hair, and then that's the last time I do anything with my hair until I cut it again. I kind of need to cut. It's not it's a little disheveled right now. There's nothing but colics on my head. So my hair just does the most insane things. And I just let it live its life. When I set it to con, no, I don't do my hair. My hair does itself. I don't know what to tell you. All right. So let me get my windows in the correct positions, and we will commence. So the library that we're going to investigate has not been touched by me for a super long time. And it is this one, Flutter Rolling Navbar. Let me make this a little bigger. The last commit was 3 years ago. That was probably, I added a test. Okay, good job, self. But I don't know, this is dusty. Anyway, this is what it does. Let's go look at a little GIF of it. So it's a hexagon, I think, at the bottom, and it just rolls back and forth. This GIF isn't very high frame rate, and there's different kind of ways it can go. It can fade in and out, or it can what does this one do? One of these like swirls in and out, but again, you can barely see it on the GIF. And then there's a snap mode, and you can drive it from the UI, and you can have text below. Can I make that bigger? Oh, that's real big. You can do more things and have, you can have badges. I hope badges, that's a dependency here. So if badges is stale, then we're going to be in trouble. So this is the library. Flutter Rolling Navbar. I haven't looked at this code in an extremely long time. It's not even checked out on this machine. So this is going to be just kind of like roasting hour for code that I wrote 5 years ago. I guess 3 years ago was the last time I touched it. So let's clone this and get to work. Yeah, here we are. Code, Flutter, rolling navbar. Now, unrelated to everything, I'm reminded, you know how Yohem is just like the friendliest person in the community? So he sent me this apt screenshot this past week, pointing out my microphone arm that just kind of cuts off right here. And the orientation of my room is such that this is how it has to be, but it is awkward on the stream. So my plan that I haven't done yet today, I haven't done yet for today's stream, is I'm going to go buy some green spray paint, and I'm going to take this monitor arm in my backyard and spray paint it perfectly green. And at that time, I will have a floating microphone that will just sit in front of me. And I may even spray paint this little tuning fork that holds the microphone. That also might look weird. Maybe I'll just spray paint up to like here. I'm not sure. But in short order, my floating microphone arm will not be a thing anymore. Although then when I don't have my green screen on, like in every other video call of my life, it'll look weird. So now I'm second thinking. I'm not so sure about my plan anymore. All right, let's see what we have. Oh, that's okay. You should definitely get comfortable roasting me. It is a time-honored tradition. I'm gonna look at a little chat before we get too far here. I wanted to ask: is it good to inject these repos? Those repos first in multi-provider, then inject blocks in a multi-block provider. I mean that a lot of people are saying that injecting block plus dependency. I'm not quite following this, but I don't think the way you set up your multi-block provider and your multi-repository provider and all those things, like those are not the important bits. I don't think I would stress those details. Then you said get it is not a good idea. And they said that instead of using get it, they use scopes. I don't know what that is, and I haven't seen any examples of that. I wonder what you have an example of. I do use get it. I don't use scopes. Not because I don't like them. I just haven't needed them yet. Scopes is a way you can almost imagine you like stack new layers of reality onto your dependency injection chain. So you could say, okay, I'm in this scope now, and you like add a dependency that's only for that scope. And then when you get the dependency, you kind of get that layered version instead of the original version. And then you can pop the scope off and go back to the other thing. And if you have like multi-account stuff going on, multi-tenancy things, then that could be a really useful way, a really clean way to implement that. And I just have never needed it. I do. Your first thing here, get it is not a good idea. I disagree with that. Get it is a straight up service locator. And that's a pretty that's a battle tested pattern. Service locators. Hello from Syria, and today's your first day learning Flutter. What would I suggest? Well, you're in the right place. I'm about to look at some old Flutter code. We're going to monkey around, and hopefully you'll learn something today. If nothing else, you might learn that in 2019, I didn't know what I was doing. All right. It's a lot of funny comments in the chat. Okay, let's see what we're dealing with. First, I guess let's look at the pub spec and just cry at how old this will be. So the Dart version is 2.8. Oh, wait. I got to make sure I'm on the right branch. Because I think wait, where did it go? I think I closed it. Come back here. Let's go to pub.dev flutter rolling nav bar. Is that what it was called? Oh, goodness. Maybe just rolling nav bar? Is this me? All right, here it is. Yeah, just terrible. Like, I don't know. I'm an unverified publisher. I'm not a good citizen. It's not Dart 3 compatible, but yeah, I have this branch here. So there's a null safety thing. So I certainly don't want to work from not null safety. Whoops, get back here. Git branch. Just what? Why was that UI so terrible? What are you talking about? Git branch. There's There's more branches than that. Why didn't it pull? Yeah, there's the null safety branch. Why didn't it pull that? Doesn't it pull branches? Doesn't it pull all the branches by default? Get fetch? Is that what I need to do to get the other branches? Get checkout null safety. What was get branch doing? I feel like this is a terminal bug. Now it's showing it. Yeah, there's a blank line here. Like something weird's going on. Okay, I'm on the real branch now. 2.12. All right. At least it's using null safety. But yeah, we want to do modern stuff. What's the current version of Dart? 3.7. The thing is, I don't need, it's like 3. Maybe I'll just do greater than or equal to 3. Is that what makes the most sense here? And then less than 4, I guess. All right, let's try this. Yeah, pub get. Yeah, eventually I remembered that I did have a null safety branch. Oh, fetch dash all. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's weird. I don't know why. I didn't realize that it was going to do that. All right, it already doesn't work. Must be. What are you talking about? Oh, Cupertino icons is ancient. What's the? I don't actually think this uses Cupertino icons. It's not on the screen. Oh, example. Okay, well, that doesn't really use it either. So get out of here. And the sample can also, we use the same dependencies. So for anyone who's first timing it today, first of all, so happy to have you. Oh, this text is probably not big enough. This might be too big. And I'll get rid of this. So for anyone who's first timing it today, pubspec.yaml is kind of the center of the universe in any Dart or Flutter application. And this environment thing, SDK, this is your Dart version. So I'm updating that from 3 years ago. And then also a convention when you have a library is you have a folder here called example. And in that is a Flutter app that runs your library. And so I have 2 pubspec.yaml files, one for the Flutter app in the example and one for the library itself. And I'm just keeping those in sync. Now, what is this? What's the problem here? I almost want to just do a fresh Flutter create package. And then like, I think I only have 1 file of source code. Yeah, I have 2 source code files. So this could be a lot easier than figuring out what all has changed here. Like, I'm not even sure. Does something have to be under here or should I get rid of it? Like, I don't even know. I've never seen this particular error before, and this code is ancient. I'll just try to get rid of it, I guess. Let's try that. I don't know what it's going to do for us. All right, a little Git lesson. Git fetch and pull will only get the current branch updates unless configured differently, and then you have to add all. Okay. I obviously don't use I haven't been doing enough interesting Git stuff recently. Max says more Flame, in particular video providing in-depth unit testing for a Flame game that includes mocking the game. That's a super good. That's a very rich topic. Okay, I think what do we have under problems? No, still 500 of them. So what is the issue here? I'm in just the library itself, and we're going to run flutter pub get. Failed update packages because tiny color doesn't support null safety. All right. I kind of remember that. I'm going to get pub open over here so we can inspect some packages. Pub, tiny color. Yeah, it could be this tiny color 2. So tiny color is struggling. Tiny color 2 is better. So I will use that. Tiny color, looking good. Now we try again. Yes. Except it's not going to put the output where I want, so it's not too helpful. Oh, but that worked. Our problems went from 540 to 8. So I think this will just say did it. Awesome. Got all our dependencies, and now we have actual problems. Badge isn't a function. That one seems like a huge problem. Oh, because this needs to be tiny color too. All right, that's good. What's the problem with badge? I think before I just start whack-a-moling these couple red squigglies, like I have no idea why badge isn't a thing anymore. There's this badge library that you would think would make that a thing. But before, like badges, right? You'd think badge is a thing. Before we do that, I'm going to try to, no, we're going to need to, I want to run the app. But I also want to just look at the code. Let's see, the name badge is defined in libraries, badge, and material badge. Yes, badges. Okay, so I just have to prefix. And then when we have badge, we do badges dot. All right, that's good. Tinycolor.new is deprecated. Well, boy, will I worry about that later. I don't even remember what tinycolor does. I have no memory of why tinycolor is a thing. What's this issue? Using a colon as a separator. Wow, look how old this code is. Yeah, I was reading this like, am I looking at Python? Oh my goodness. I don't even remember that. When did that change happen? I have no memory of that at all. All right, import of Dart UI is unnecessary. Okay. Don't remember why it was ever imported in the first place. Let's see if I can run the sample app. We'll go cd into example and Flutter run on Mac OS. A second first timer. Cheers. That's incredible. All right, downloading some stuff. Please answer my question. What was your question? I don't see it. I'm searching and I see it not. I'm sorry, good sir. Your question has floated away deep into the depths isn't a very elegant phrase, but that's what I've got now. Deep into outer space. No, sorry. Actually, I don't see your question. If you posted, if it contained a link, then YouTube probably ate the question. So that could be what's going on. Why badge still have name conflicts? We can't rename the class with different name. I'm not sure if you typed that before or after I had sorted out what was going on. Oh, 1 minute ago. So that was after. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, welcome, Robert, by the way. A fellow Flutter YouTuber. And yeah, the 2018, 2019 era code is... Is it, Robert? No. That kind of code is scary. All right, let's see here. This didn't work, and it's because... Why is it? Did I not save the file? I didn't. That's my favorite reason to have an app not run. First time, not with Flutter, but watching the show from Nepal. Welcome. Glad to have you here. All right. I think oh, that's interesting. It complained about not working and then worked. Also, you can see here, it really expected a very different aspect ratio. And then I've got a casting problem here. Type double to double is not a subtype of nullable double to double. So I'm guessing that I had some erroneous null safety change. And the fact that it's breaking immediately in the dev app makes me think that this whole library does not work. So that's probably really undermined its usage. All right. Where is this happening? Why am I not getting... Why am I only getting the error here? What? I'm not getting... Oh, it is also showing. I was scrolled up here. I didn't even see it. So where is this? It's in rolling navbar 260 to 16. I remember when I came back to this library and made it null safe. There's not a double on this spot. What are you talking about? Oh, one of these parameters? Oh, fun. Oh, that's just great. Oh, it's actually on 593. Okay, that's better. Aha! Yes, the directionality. Oh. This is the hackiest code in this. I remembered this morning as I was getting ready. I thought, when I get to this directionality code, I'm going to be sad because someone filed an issue and it certainly wasn't on them. They just pointed out, hey, your library doesn't handle right to left text direction. And I thought, sure doesn't, because I never thought about doing that because it was 2019. And I hacked together a really terrible fix, which I'm now going to put in air quotes because it crashes. And this isn't good. Anyway, where are we? Soon we're going to get it running. We're going to see it, and then we're going to have a tour of the code. And in that tour, we'll understand what we can update and actually make this not stinky. But this is the build method of the main, well, the whole thing, I guess, the rolling navbar inner state. Because there's a widget that kind of proxies to like an inner underscore widget. And so we're just in the build method of the main thing. And we're checking here directionality center X transform. That variable name may have meant something to me before COVID, but it doesn't anymore. All right, we're going to command click that to figure out where that even comes from. Who are you? It's a function? What? Huh? Oh, I'm declaring the function depending on whether or not it is left or right. Ah, and the function. Okay, so we can just kind of see the thing happening here. I think I null safetyified this in a sloppy way. But you didn't think Dart 2.12 drama was going to resurface today. So the actual function that I want to create is a function that accepts a nullable double. And the first question is like, should it even accept a nullable double? Directionality center X transform. What is the double that it takes? Let's see, where does this get past a double? Indicator X. So that's this. I happen to remember indicator X is the center of the active circle. It might be kind of rolling around. So that's the center of the thing. And then we see right here, it's center X of the active indicator. Okay, I named something reasonably. So we call, yes, I remember now. Right, so the 0 index of the nav bar in a left to right text direction, that's on the left. But the 0 index of the nav bar in a right to left direction is on the right. And so this figures out, this just handles that thing. So indicator X here is nullable. Why is indicator X nullable? It feels like it probably is never null. Like here I'm setting it, and that's in init state. So now I'm immediately wondering, like, should this have just been a late double? You can see the last commit, added RTL support. I should have named that commit hastily duct taped together, unsustainable, poorly conceived RTL support. All right, so here I'm continuing to assign it to a nullable double. No idea if it actually needs to be nullable. And here I'm assigning it again, but this is, I think, in an animation controller. Yeah, so that's fine. Here I'm assigning it. I'm just wondering where do I ever use it where it might not actually be nullable? And it's set, and then it's passed into this method to be turned into center X. That's it. This is the only time it's read. So if it, see that, and then what does this method do? So I say if it's left to right, then there's some random math. And wow, this is just extremely hard to read. What is going on? So we've got a function here. I'm going to turn this into like a normal function body. I think that'll help with readability right now. I'll just have a better sense of what on earth I'm looking at. And so then this now needs a semicolon or something. How do I even transform this code? It obviously, this is all a statement, right? Where does this? Oh, that goes to here as double. And then why does this say, I don't actually even know how to read this code. Why does this say function double here? Does this seem like valid code to anyone? Am I crazy? Hi from Ukraine. Slava Ukraini. Double function double, but with a line break. So no. Yeah. I think the fact that this is a ternary is kind of like the issue here. So if I were to put this in its own variable, I could say final X, which is a bad name, and I'm going to change it. And then X could go here. And now I can think about this as double. I'm not going to lie. I just don't understand why this code is even here. What happens if I delete it? Now it's not as double, function double. Oh, this is the whole thing. That's the cast. Oh, it's a function that returns double and the parameter is double. Oh my gosh, when the new line was here, are you kidding me? That was so confusing. Oh. Wow. Old Dart code is different than new Dart code. All right. So there is a function that takes a double and I'm casting it as a function that takes a nullable double. And I think I just want to make this. The real question is does active indicator ever check whether center X is null? I think that will be the answer. Because if active indicator never accounts for center X being null, then this was just a late variable. And in pre 2.12, in pre-null safety, like I probably knew that it would never actually be null after the first frame or something. And so I never checked it again. But then when I null safetyified it, I did it wrong. So let's see, does center X ever, is it ever maybe null? Here it could be null, that doesn't matter. Well, that's it. This could be. And here it's not even how silly. All right. Well, we've answered that question. So this doesn't need to be null at all. That'll be the first order of business. We're getting rid of that problem. So I'm going to get rid of the cast. We're not casting it that way at all anymore. And you are no longer accepting a null thing. And I'll put this back for now. And I'm going to get rid of this cast as well. And then we get rid of this. All right. And then this function, indicator X, right? So indicator X now just becomes late. That is I believe the fix. It was trying to tell me, wasn't it? It was trying to say. My mic is too high? Is it too loud? Am I too loud? I really do need to do some yoga. That is real. Okay. Look at that. It rolls around. Is the frame rate high enough right now for everyone to see this thing rolling? Is this like a wow, look how bad this all is. Oh, nice. So it does not. Okay, we'll add this to the list of bugs, huh? You can see also I developed this before desktop or web. So this would never be a thing because you don't do this with phones. So good stuff, huh? All right, I'll put it right back in place. All right, so this is the library. Yeah, pixel perfect design. Yeah, you just have to size the window perfectly. It's like, oh no, sir, I did not develop that incorrectly. You need to move the window to be like this. Really good for a product spec. Okay, let's see how this works. What's our bugs list here? Let's open a new text edit file. I'm going to bring this in. What is our bugs list? 1, resizing is broken. 2, there's probably more. Okay. So, oh wait, where did I? There we go. Okay. It's time to redesign this package. That is very true. So, how does this thing even work? I did actually write some documentation. I remember this is before I worked at Google, and I wanted to submit this to the Flutter community, and they gave me the feedback that the code sucked. It was underdocumented, and probably other issues as well. Probably not enough tests. Feedback was all correct. I added a lot of documentation, and then got distracted with life. And here we are. So there is at least some stuff, some documentation here to help us. Import of legacy library into null safe. Whoop, I guess we can get rid of that. That's a good thing to drop. All right, a special builder, that's fine. I do remember this animation info and animation update class. These are pretty central. Somewhere in the center of something, there is a stream that emits animation info and animation update objects, and they contain all of the information for a certain builder. And so animation info, maybe it's not really the animation, I don't think. I might call this like navbar info or something. Let's see, what did I write? Container for the most primitive data necessary to drive the animation with functions to yield the next tier of calculated data for the animation. It's a strange sentence. All right, so it obviously, it stores the number of sides. So yeah, is it a hexagon? Is it a pentagon? Whatever, it can be whatever you want. And then where is it going? Where did it come from? And then sides per list item. What does that mean? The amount of sides on the active indicator that it should roll as it traverses each list item. Oh yeah, so you can have it kind of roll slowly, or it can like spin really fast. So that controls that. And then last thing, the amount of rotation applied to the active indicator at the start of this transition. So I think that is basically like previously applied. It's not what we apply right now. It's, because when it's sitting at index 0, it's going to have a rotation of 0. And then the math might work out such that it looks nice to kind of roll 40% to go to index 2. And then I think this would store 0.4. And obviously that would have been extra information that would be good to add to this docstring, but I did not do that. All right, a direction concept. There were no fancy enums, so like some of this stuff maybe you design differently nowadays. Oh, this is on the animation info class. Yeah, we're still there. Okay, so this is just a getter. That's fine. Yeah, direction forward, direction backward. Is that an enum of my own? Oh yeah, forward, backward, stationary. Stationary is not really direction, which means this isn't really a good name for this, but we'll live with it for now. All right, so that's animation info. And then if we scroll down, we do see, okay, radians to rotate. Total rotation required to reach the new index. So this is just mathing. Note that this is correct because the active indicator holds its rotation value when it gets to an index. Yeah, so that kind of references that starting rotation value. And I should have said in the starting rotation field. So when a user clicks on tab 2, the indicator rolls there and holds. Imagine that it rolls 180 degrees or pi radians. Those are the same thing. And then is followed up by a click on the third tab, requiring yet another 180 degrees or pi radians of rotation. This number indicates that to reach the third tab, the total rotation of 2 pi radians is required. But already stored elsewhere is that the active indicator has rotated pi radians. Slightly confusingly worded, but I think I was able to follow along with what I was thinking forever ago. How are people doing out there? Is this making any sense? All right, next. Radians to rotate delta. I can imagine what this is. Total rotation required to reach the new index minus what has already been rotated. Great. Okay, next thing, animation update. Container for the state of a rolling navbar's animation, useful for syncing visual effects elsewhere in your app with navbar animation progress. That's right. So there's a thing here. There's a different color on every spot, right? So it starts at red, and then it goes to yellow, and then it goes to green, and then it goes to blue. And the way that works, the way that works is it does its thing. But then notice that, the animation gets all wrong, but then it corrects itself. Well, that's cool. So there's actually I just need like a media query dependency for the size. Whoa. Interesting. Anyway, it changes color as it's rolling, but so does this outer doodad. So this is going to go from green to red or whatever the starting color was. And the way that this outer color changes is through the mechanism described here, useful for syncing visual effects elsewhere in your app with the navbar animation progress. And that's the stream, I think. All right, animation update. The relative value of the animation taking into account the selected curve. Okay, that's fine. This is like the thing that you set in the animation controllers add listener callback. All right, color, the current color of the active indicator as it is optionally linearly interpolated. I have no idea why this says optionally. Maybe that's because there's the different movements. There's the rotate, snap, fade, whatever. Okay, direction, whether it's going forward or backwards, that's fine. Or whether it's just sitting there minding its own business. Percent animated, absolute value or progress of the animation without taking into the amount of the selected curve. Yeah, makes sense. So that one is definitely going to just linearly progress from 0 to 100 or 0 to 1 for a double. And then rotation, the current rotation of the active indicator in radians. Okay. So those are the data classes. Watching this after full-time Flutter dev working day, first of all, that's awesome. And I'm just happy the app builds without errors. I presume you're talking about your app. And congrats on your app building without errors. I should appreciate Craig's commenting skills. Why? These comments are terrible. We have to remember so much to know what this means every time. All right, rolling nav bar, stateless widget. This is the thing. And I wrote like a couple of words. Let's see what I said. Bottom nav bar with playful and customizable transitions between active states. Oh, well, I really thought a lot of myself, didn't I? This widget is suitable for the bottom of a stack or a scaffold's bottom navigation bar slot, though in the latter, a sizing wrapping widget is required. Oh, interesting. Okay. Rolling nav bar has two named constructors, children and icon data. Oh, right. Two named constructors, children. Why can't I say constructors? I keep saying constructors. I don't even know what I said. Two named constructors, children and icon data, and no default constructor. The two constructors exist to accept each of the possible children types, a list of widgets, that's children, or a list of raw icon data objects. Because icon data objects can be dynamically inserted into icon classes with custom styles, this constructor offers much more helpful default active state handling. All right. That sounds familiar to me. I thought I had a builder constructor, though. Maybe I scrapped it. Maybe I thought this was like, that was just too insane and no one would ever use it, myself included. Rolling navbar is a stateless widget. That's not valuable to have written. That wraps an internal stateful widget for the purposes of introducing a layout builder in the render pipeline. Yeah, so that's where I need the dependency on the media query. And I bet I could just basically add that right away. Anyway, got a lot of parameters here. I'm going to come back to those. Let's look at the actual constructor here. So there is a dot builder. I knew it. So the dot builder, blah, 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 blahs. Oh, and it delegates to icon data. Where does the builder happen? I didn't, in the build, we see, wait a minute. Where's the builder? So yeah, there is a builder. Optional builder function for individual navigation icons. I don't think I use that one very much. I'm just going to collapse this. I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. Okay, icon data. Apparently there's no blank line between these two. Look at the style guide adherence, folks. There isn't a blank line between these two constructors. I remember when I was writing this, I didn't know anything about like the linting packages or style guide. I was just typing random stuff. These are my humble beginnings. Okay, the icon data constructor. This is basically the real one that anyone would actually use. So we see here, you can pick the different colors. These are like lists of colors and yeah, different badges and whatnot. Oh yeah, Tiny Color was there to automate. Like you don't have to supply the badge colors. I don't have any badges here. Let's go to the sample app and make that happen. So example main.dart. So in here, I can set the badges. So I'll make this one like 1. And then we refresh. And so now in here, we've got a 1. And this started out as a light orange. Or maybe it's the same orange. All right, I thought Tiny Color was going to kind of apply a little thing to that. I don't remember. I had a theory for what that was going to do, and then I immediately disproved it. Good stuff. All right, the curve, the animation type. Right, so this is an enum. You got roll, snap. I think snap was one. Yeah. So now we refresh, and the whole animation goes away. It just... Oh, I'm changing the default and not what I'm passing. Yeah, good stuff. Where is the darn thing? Rolling nav bar. Here we go. Icon data. So the animation type, now here it should work. Guys, I'm telling you. Why did your messages vanish? Well, I don't know, because they vanished. But they contained something that YouTube didn't like. That includes any link to anything, no matter how valid the link is. And probably it was that. So now, right, it snaps. It doesn't roll anymore. And then there's other ones. There's like spin out, I think. Spin out in. That one, I remember this one being kind of fun. So it's happening way too fast. Even I can barely see it. Nasty. Where's the animation speed? Base animation speeds. That's 200 milliseconds. Oh, literally right there. So let's make that like 2 seconds. Refresh. This should be better. Yeah, it spins out and then it spins in and it spins out and it spins in. That's kind of fun, I think. Oh, I should add a border to what? What would you like? All right, continuing. Yeah, there's more things. Icon colors, text size, indicator colors. That's, I think, for the badges. So if this is defaulting to all pink, then I must be passing actual. Oh, yeah. I said, oh, no, indicator colors. I'm passing colors there. Okay, love it. Corner radius, indicator size, all these things. Okay. All right. So rolling navbar inner. This is the stateful widget that holds the animation controllers, all that fun stuff. I don't know why I bothered to wrap this in a stateless widget. I think I saw that pattern somewhere and thought it made you really smart. And then I mimicked it. And I don't really think there's any value in having done that. All of this pass-through of these like 20 parameters being wired down into the inner widget is just an opportunity to make a mistake. I don't know why I did any of that. Well, I do know why. I thought it made you smart, but I wouldn't do it again. All right. Look at, we've scrolled through hundreds of lines of parameter passing. This is crazy. Why? I have to redeclare them all. Why? Don't do that, kids. Okay, finally the state widget at line 345. This is like one of those movies. My wife and I rewatched Matilda recently. Super good, like so good. But I was really surprised. The girl doesn't get her power until like 65% of the way through the movie. And I feel like that's this code base where it's line 345 in the only file. And we're finally getting to the class with the stuff. And it, of course, has to also redeclare all the fields. All right. And then there's, I remember being really confused about this in old Flutter times. Does init state need to hold on to values from the widget? And I don't think this is really a good pattern because if the surrounding, I mean, it's just an awkward thing. And this is a tricky thing, right? If the new stateless widget has a different active index, actually, I have a way to handle that. How did I do that? Because there's another thing that I was happy about. You can also set this to advance by clicking somewhere else. You can programmatically drive it somewhere else. So I'm clicking up here, and the active index is incrementing by 1. So I actually am solving this question that I'm talking about somewhere. How did that happen? In main.dart. So what do I do when this is in the example, and I've got that big, poorly laid out thing that says rolling navbar. Yeah, and it's transform skewed, whatnot. So this whole thing is the main marquee up here that like clips itself and isn't well conceived. Because I was definitely imagining a specific aspect ratio. But now, Where's the like on tap handler for that? Oh, gesture detector, increment index. Well, all of that to do that. Crazy. So in increment index, we are calling set state on the outer thing, which will then pass in active index. Oh, it must be on did update widget. Is that where I'm doing this? Is there a did update widget implementation? Ho ho, ho ho. Yeah. So if active index is different, then I update it. Okay. Then we call some stuff. All right. Anyway, back to init state. So that's the thing, right? I think it's a little foot gun. I remember being pretty confused by this as a brand new Flutter developer. How exactly, if a stateful widget, if the state object behind a stateful widget inherits some value from the widget, but then it's going to start crunching on those. It's like, obviously you have to have your own value because you need to update that value. Or you need to have your own kind of variable because you need to update the data. But then I have to keep honoring what the widget might do if you get new values, if the widget rebuilds. And anyway, this is what I came up with, was to actually save them all, update the local copies, and use did update widget. I guess that's the only way. Anyway, we're saving a bunch of values again. All right, so we're actually kind of all the way down to line 385 before there's anything interesting. But I think I want to see the animation controllers here. That is, just more bleh. Calculate sides per list item. Oh, right. This is how fast they should roll. And I think this might have been like to calculate a default if nothing was passed in. This is what would control whether or not they roll like this while they move from index to index, or if they just kind of roll a little bit. Pretty sure. Disposing, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, there's so much. Oh, look at this. Look at this. So I have this animation, and now we could actually use exhaustiveness checking, and that'll be a good update to do. So let's add animation type exhaustiveness checking to the list of bugs. And animation. Oh, come on. Animation type exhaustiveness checking. Because here I have no idea where else I might actually do this. So that's not great. Roll active indicator. Oh yeah, I've got a method for each one. Roll active indicator, snap active indicator, spin out in active indicator, shrink out in. Oh, shrink out in is the same, but you don't rotate. Okay, that's smart of me. I'm happy with that. Roll active indicator. So these, I was diving right into custom animations. And I always thought this was a really fun part of Flutter. Just really getting your hands on animation controllers right away and controlling exactly how something should behave over a given amount of time. So like the roll active indicator, this is what's going to move in the default animation style, the indicator from one thing to the next. So make an animation controller that's going to run how long it needs to run. So that's the base animation speed times how many spots we're actually moving, right? So if it takes 200 milliseconds to go from 1 to 2, but you're going from 1 to 3, then that's 400 milliseconds. And then the curved animation is just applying whatever curve was specified to the controller. And then the tween, now admittedly the API is verbose, but you can look it up. No one remembers this? I never remember this. So then you make a tween and you pass in the curve, and you have to cast it in a weird way. This is honestly a little wonky. That's probably why people don't like it. You do have to look up this code, and it's really annoying. But then you get to the add listener part, and then it gets really fun. And that's where it's worth it. So then you get to start deciding exactly how this animation should behave at a given percentage of the way through. So if we're moving forward, then our indicator rotation is whatever we started this rotation at, plus the rate at which we should move times how much we've moved. That's great. How would you do this with an implicit animation? That's just going to rotate it in place, and then something else is going to actually move it. And then if we're not moving forward, so we also should put some exhaustiveness checking on direction. That'll be a good update. Direction exhaustiveness checking. So if we're not moving forward, we're moving backwards, or we're staying still. So really big bug possibility here. Then it's our starting rotation minus the same value. That's great. And here's a pointless null check or unwrap. All right, so then indicator X, this is the center of the thing. Oh yeah, this was the left to right part. So this is rotation, and this is I called it X because it's XY. So it's progress down the bottom navigation bar. So that is where it was at the start of the animation, plus where we're going, minus the start, which is, I guess, yep, that's correct, times our percent of the way through the curve. So great. I love it. And then we get the roller color. So this is going to do colors.lerp essentially. And an empty set state. Good. Good. Okay. Number 4, remove empty set state calls. Good. Who knows what breaks if I get rid of that? That's so good. All right, what do I do after the set state? This will be interesting. Oh, right. I think this is like the functionally the stream. So if you can pass in a listener that will get called. I doubt there's an actual stream mechanic here, but you can pass in a listener that gets called, and then if there was one, we'll staple together an animation update object and tell you about it. And I don't know why this isn't even just a local variable. That's interesting. Maybe it's red at some point for the last one. All right, I want to stop and see how chat is going. You can remove the set state out of did update widget. There's always a rebuild. That's correct. I've literally given talks on that. Update did update widget. Yeah, set state not needed. Great call. You think I should improve myself? Well, you're not wrong, but so should you. Everybody should. Never stop your quest for self-improvement. To give up on self-improvement is to give up on life, I say. All right. Where was I? Oh yeah, tiny color crossed out. Okay. We're actually kind of almost the way to the bottom. And then we'll have a couple changes to make here. Oh no, I'm not almost all the way to the bottom. Oh boy. But there's 4 of these methods. So, okay, roll active indicator. We got to the empty set state. We bundle up an update for you. And then there's an add status listener. So when you get to the end, then call this complete handler. I'm not sure what that does. And then you actually have to kick the animation off. This is one of my favorite ways to screw things up, is to tediously write all of this animation code that's so hopefully correct, and then click the thing and nothing happens, and you troubleshoot and you troubleshoot and you troubleshoot and you didn't call forward. Raise your hand if you've done that. Okay, so I'm not going to look at all of these methods. There's roll, snap, fade in, fade out. Oh yeah, snap is super simple. You just move to the spot. You don't have to rotate anything like that. Fade in, fade out. That's looking good. Yeah, it's fine. All right, get roller color, colors.lerp. as anticipated. Max width for what? Inquiring minds want to know. I guess I could be using the to-do system, huh? To-do. Max width for what? Goes the mid-2000s song. Okay. Build. This is where we started. Unnullabling that double. And then how does this work? Got a container with the height and some decoration or background of white. Okay. Don't really need this comma, I guess. Ooh. Whoa. Why is this going too long? What do I have in my browser settings here? VS Code. Wait. Do I have like I thought I might find some custom styling rules, like actually use a longer line width, but I'm not. I don't know why this is allowing itself to go long when I remove the comma, but it is allowing itself to do that, and that is interesting. All right, so we got the nav bar decoration or off the shelf box decoration. Then we get into a stack. I remember one of the big insights for me as an early Flutter developer was realizing that it's just fine to use stacks all over the place. You know, you need to position something just right. Don't worry about it. Don't try to get cute. You can use a stack. I think I felt like that. Oh, that's expensive. It's like such a fancy thing. You can't use it a lot. You can use a stack whenever you want. Anyway, so the children of this starts with an active indicator. And that's first because it's behind everything, of course. And it's positioned based on right to left. Oh, I should turn on right to left and make sure that actually still works. Do I have any direction? No, I don't have it in here. I must have just tested it briefly to actually see that it worked. All right, I'll come back to that later. And then you've got the Y that never really changes unless the window changes size. Still need to add that media query dependency. Indicator color, blah, 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 blah. These things have all been calculated in advance in this build method. And then we get into a row, which uses space around to position all the individual children. After I got so excited talking about stacks, then I was wondering to myself, did I position all the icons with a stack, or was I smart and used a row? And I did use a row, so that's good. Anyway, all the icons are full size, and we either call the builder or we loop over the icon data and call build navbar icon, which doesn't follow my own helper method or new widget guidance. So as you can see, after I learned stuff on the job in Flutter developer relations, I didn't even go back and fix my own code to do the things. So I'm going to add to my update list 5, remove build navbar icon helper method in accordance with latest guidance from Google. Okay. So what does this do? Calls this method, and it seems to take a widget as its first positional parameter, and then the indexed.value and indexed.index. Oh, yeah. There's a better way to do this in Dart now, but I think there wasn't at the time. So yeah, you got an iterable and you want to loop over it and know where you are each time. So yeah, I just cooked this up. You don't have to do this anymore. I am quite sure. Oh, hey, look, I actually like wrote sensible documentation. Anyway, so the reason this takes as an indexed is because build navbar icon was called in the indexed method as the callback. Yeah, so I'm calling indexed. So that's how we're looping over the icon data. And then map would need to be a method that takes the indexed thing, because that's what happens over here. Indexed is a generator of indexed objects. Come back. All right, so, and then there's another build navbar item. Build navbar item. What do you do? Let's build an actual. Oh, look, hey, man, I am using a widget. All right. Now I might not hate this so much because it is a method that just immediately delegates to a custom widget. So I think this part's okay. Takes the child and has a lot of figuring to do and has an onPress method that sets the active. Oh, the boy, is that important. Invoke the optional handler. Okay. I don't know why there would be another handler for each one. That's interesting. Text widget, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So the navbar item we saw down here, and this is a gesture detector, reduces rate of missed taps. How interesting. Why? Why? On pressed as void, as a nullable void function. There's no way. There's no way. Get out of here. What are you talking about? On pressed. Yeah, you're there we go. Huh? What's argument type function can't be assigned to gesture tap callback. That's a void function. So you have to pass it? This actually does seem strange. It seems odd. I guess we could do like a void callback. That's the same thing, basically. I don't think I knew about void callback, but a nullable one, because it's definitely optional. Oh, there we go. I don't know why. Oh, maybe because it didn't say void. So this isn't very specific. Get out of here, tooltip. Anyway, function question mark is not very specific. And yeah, specifying void callback completed made the type system happy. All right, some more widget assembly, blah, 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 the optional badge. I'm into blah, blah, blah mode now. Oh, active indicator. This is a good one. This is important. Yeah, center X, we've spent a lot of time calculating where it should be, and then it's rotation. There we go, the double, and that's probably in radians undocumented. Also, I love I'm having a, constructors are supposed to go above fields. That super style guidey thing. Didn't have a clue. I knew nothing. I knew nothing. Positioned, transform.rotate with the rotation. Do you need to be nullable? Can this default be 0? I'm going to see where else that's a problem. Yeah, transforming super easy. We use clip polygon. That's from the package. Continue on down. Looking great. Rotate it. That's basically the only thing we need to do. And position it. And then unnullabling that made something else mad because something else was probably thought it could be nullable. Doesn't look like that code would Oh, because indicator rotation can be null in radians. Again, you're just 0. That's the default. The default is you're not rotated. But then you always have a rotation value. Okay. Let's get rid of the pointless things. Can I dart fix from down here? Yes. All right. You would think I would know that. I've literally never done that before. How fun. Okay, does it still work? Restart. Okay, the 4-second animation is very tedious. Oh, 2 seconds. We'll go back. I'll double the original, but we'll still have a fast animation. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then there's, what are the other ones? Oh, shrink out in. That one will look very similar because the animation, the rotation was happening really fast on the other one. So this one just kind of, shrink out ins. I think that's fun. But of course, roll is the main character of this package. Woo, woo, woo. You love to see it. Oh, it's really satisfying watching it go all the way across. At least I think it is. Obviously, you would not want to wait all of that time to actually update the main part of the UI. The user will delete your app. So you would change the active UI tab immediately and then let the little cutesy animation roll. All right, first thing, I'm going to fix the problem with resizing this because it isn't good. Oh yeah, this Control-Shift-V. That doesn't seem to work in text edit. I tried it as well. It is apparently not a thing in text edit though, sadly. Can someone explain what happened until now? Haven't you been here the whole time? Yes, I'm scrolling up. You've literally been talking to you this whole time. I think you were talking pre-show. You said, yeah, you've been talking the whole time. What's going on? Okay. Okay, well then you got me. Well trolled. Can we take an instance class in runtime? You might mean at runtime. I'm not sure what you mean. I want to answer this. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. I wonder if this would now be possible with the overlay classes. They didn't exist back then. And that's an interesting question. I have not really studied those APIs, the overlay portal. I'm assuming you're talking about. So I wouldn't be very efficient at all at modifying this or porting this to that. But that is an interesting question. Okay, first up, the problem with the resize. So we need a media query dependency somewhere for size of, but in here I have one. I don't want to add it to the wrong spot. Also, boy, yeah, you can see using media query.of and then size instead of size of for, but I am also listening to other things. Okay. I have no idea if view insets was the right thing here. Anyway, we need a media query dependency somewhere where we don't have one. And I am not exactly sure where that is. So let's think. And where was that first one that we just saw? This is in the builder. Oh, I'm in main.dart. I'm in the sample. This has nothing to do with anything. This is all for that big, large banner thing. It has nothing to do with the bar. Okay, get out of here. Begone, wrong file. Rid myself of your company. That's how villains should talk. Rid myself of your company. All right, where do we need a thing? I'm looking. All right, that code actually starts. Where's the top build file? This is where we finally have real code. Everything above this is unknown nonsense. So we start to position things. All right, and also I do kind of want to just like be a bad boy and say media query dot size of context. So it'll be funny if this works, and I think it will. But this is about as terrible as an empty set state. But I think this will create a dependency on the media query, and well, I know it will do that. And then I think that will make the thing rebuild and solve the problem. And then the question will be, where do we move this to so it's actually instructive and not like the most random, is it vestigial, is it not sort of appendage in the code base you could possibly imagine. So let's refresh. And this, I theorize, will fix everything. So watch, there it works. That's great. And as I rebuild, it doesn't fix everything. Okay. Well, this is actually more fun. Now we get to really hunt for what's going on and make sure we put it in the right place. So it's the position of the active indicator. That's where this is taking place. So the position of the active indicator is, yeah, it's all about center X. And we're in left to right territory. So it's this function. This function is positioning the thing. So adding that dependency did not influence this calculation. I think that's what we can conclude. So tab width chunk, what the heck were you again? Measure of the available space for each nav item, right? So this is coming from widget.width. This thing has to pass in a width? Is that for real? You have to pass a width to this? And it's required? You have to use a layout builder? How terribly awkward. So the actual width that we're talking about here, bottom nav bar container. Oh, wait a minute. What? This does have the width? Oh, we're not passing it to icon data. Icon data doesn't take a width. Was that only on the builder version that took? What is happening here? What? Oh, that is the inner thing. And there was a comment that indicated that. Oh, look at me. I didn't write much, but I wrote one thing that mattered. And I actually insulted that comment. I said it was a stateless widget that wraps an internal stateful widget for the purpose of introducing a layout builder. And so that layout builder is where width comes from. Layout builder. Yeah. So this is in, get out of here, tooltip. This is in the rolling navbar's build method, and it immediately goes to the rolling navbar inner after using a layout builder. And so I guess this is where we need to be using. Why is this actually not working? This doesn't feel, I still kind of think that last thing should have worked. Media query dot size of context. Like, are you going to fix it? Because if this doesn't make this thing rebuild when the window rebuilds, then what are we even talking about? What is even going on? All right, that works. Oh gosh, too slow. No, it didn't work. Oh, it just worked for the first index. Oh, it did work for the first index though. Look, this is moving. The active X is moving correctly, but only for the first index. So does it move a little bit, but not enough for the second index? Answer, cannot tell. Don't know. Absolutely do not know. But it works for the first index and not the other ones. Interesting. Is it because of the animation? Maybe. Craig, you would successfully do 2 days of stream after 10 minutes in India. Is this a like time zone dateline thing? It'd be midnight? Or no, that's noon. 12 p.m. is noon. I'm not sure what you mean. Why is the first index so special? That's a good question, and I don't yet know. Also, I do not love my decision to have colored the floating. Oh, well, the floating action button being colored looks better when it doesn't clip with the main thing. When I'm in this aspect ratio, it looks really silly. Anyway, yeah, okay. So the active X indicator, or center X, as I called it with debatable wisdom, does update correctly for the first index and not for other ones. You have to think, and did it update even correctly for the first index without this? That's another question. Terminal, re-render. Yeah, seems to work just fine even without. Oh yeah, I've got like render problems. Actually, yeah, if you only have this much space, then you do have some real challenges on how you would render this. So I think that's okay. Those overflow issues. I don't know that I need to support a UI that is only 20 pixels tall, but it did work without that media query. So that means, because we've seen different media query of calls around. So it's already rebuilding. So that has not been the problem. The problem is that there's some like cached calculation that is using old data. And since we pass in box constraints, we've got constraints, and we're going to pass in constraints max height, and later on max width from constraints. This isn't going to update. No, it should update. What are we talking about? Of course it's going to update. As soon as I said that, this enormous alarm went off in my brain. Like, Craig, that is a stupid sentence. Let's watch this value update. Max width. Look, lots of max width. Not lots of max width. Lots of max width. So, something. The problem is coming from inside the house. It is in the rolling navbar inner class. So let's look at its build method, I suppose. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. How much you want to bet that this is broken? Actually, I'm just going to print that for now. Although max width isn't used in center X when we're left to right, and we are in left to right now. So it's kind of like, doesn't it have to be this tab chunk width? Is that it? Let's print that value. Some value isn't going to update as this changes. That should be updating. And that is the problem. We merely must find which value it is. So this is changing, and in the direction we would expect. As you have less available space in the whole window, then you have less available space per tab chunk width. And that was supposed to be the gap between just two indices in the bottom nav bar is a tab chunk. Really sophisticated terminology I came up with. Was a position determined by animation info or something? So I think it's all done here in this build method, and it's all center X. Like I'm pretty sure it's this. So if I say, should be able to verify this. If center X just becomes like 150, then I think it's going to sit there. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I think it's going to sit there. Oh my gosh. I'm not smart enough to stream, I'm telling you. At 150, and nothing will ever change. Right. So it's all about, well, that's kind of fun. It just, it just rotates randomly at 150. And you can see it rotating left or right accordingly. So yeah, we're just not calculating that correctly. And that's all in this little method that I calculate. And it is all in this because we're in left to right mode. So tab chunk width was changing, but it must not be changing correctly. It must not be changing like enough or something like that. Does that even make sense? Where do you come from? All right, tab chunk width. Its first appearance in the whole file is as a part of a calculation. Where are you declared, dear friend? What are you talking about? How is that the first appearance? Oh, because it's a getter later down. All right. Widget.width and num children. So num children is not changing. So widget.width, measure of the available space. Get out of here, tooltip. Gosh. Measure of the available space for each nav item. Why would this not be updating enough? Widget.width, that's what the layout builder gave us, and that is updating. I have a thing I want to test. This is going to be interesting. I think it might be interesting. It might just not do anything. Is tab chunk width being updated later than the function call? Well, interesting question, but it's a getter, so it's being updated. It doesn't cache anything, so it's being updated whenever it's called, which then just punts the question to these things. But widget.width came from the layout builder because we're in the rolling navbar inner state, which again only exists for the layout builder. So that suggests, the layout builder is not going to give you old information. So I don't think this is wrong. Or sorry, I don't think any of these values are stale. I think this calculation is incomplete. This calculation is not taking something into account that it needs to be taken into account. That is my theory. And the test that I want to run is not keeping it hard-coded at 150 anymore. The test that I want to run is to resize it and then click. Oh, and it moved from that position, but to the correct position. So that was happening because it calculates, the calculation for how far it has to go is just the cached old value of where it was. Oh, the cached old value of where it was. It feels like that's obviously the problem. Anyway, it calculates where to go based on the target location. That's calculated dynamically, minus the cached old value of where it was. So that's why when I resize it and click one, it goes to the correct place. And it's not updating, I guess, because that cached old value of where it was is not being reevaluated in some way. And the cached old value of where it was. This is the is indicator X. I forgot this was a function that takes the other thing, and the other thing is indicator X. That's the center. So indicator X isn't changing somewhere. And where is that? Because in init state, indicator X is set here. I think that's fine. That's just the initial state. And then it's going to get updated in these different, the whole point of all these animation controllers is to update indicator X and then have an empty set state call. Naturally, that's obviously how you write that. So indicator X is not oh. Oh. Wait. Oh. 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 Did update widget. I think I need in did update widget to also say if widget if width, sorry, if max width, no, where's width? What am I in right now? Yeah, you have width. I think in did update widget is where I need to see if the width changed and then modify active X, sorry, indicator X in the same, but why don't you have width? Wasn't the whole point of you to take a width? All right, so it must be stored in one of these things. Oh, and I guess it's tab chunk width. Tab chunk width, widget.width. So I think what we say is tab chunk width not the same as, oh no, we don't have access to the old state object. We have access to the old widget. So we actually have to store the width so that I can detect when the width changes and then factor that into the calculations. Pretty sure that is the problem. So in this class, we are going to have a double width that will be late. And the width will come from the widget.width. Widget.width. And I'm going to say here, to do, write comment about how this is stored for the purpose of resizing during window resizing. P.S. Did I just write that comment? I may have done it. So now in did update widget, we can say if width does not equal to old widget.width, then indicator X equals what was our initial calculation? It was the active index times this. I'm going to copy this line. I think this will work, but I think this will then break if I resize during an animation. That's my theory. So we go to a spot, we resize, boom, shakalaka. But I'm going to go to the beginning. Ooh, yeah, that made that super broken. So if it actually just, wow, breaks a lot of other stuff. All right, so it's not I fixed one thing and not other things. And that suggests that there's just more serious, deep thinking to be done with this library because it's really coded very poorly. And so when you try to fix one thing, other things break. Anyway, I'm on to something here. Something like this, I think, is what needs to be done. But I do want to. We're out of time for today. But I'm gonna spend time thinking about really the right way to do this. This is vaguely correct. This is like the nature of the problem. It may not really be the nature of the solution, but yeah, that is what is going on, I believe. You can access old widget.with and widget.with. Yeah, but I had to store widget.with because at first I was only using it in a computed property, but then I was able to do this. Yeah. Updating on the widget resizes. Yeah, folks were figuring it out. When was this? 33, 3 minutes ago. Yeah, that you're right, Gold. I think the sofa's holding the mic. Aishman, you are a silly man or woman, but probably I think man, but I don't know. You are a silly person. The sofa is not holding the mic. What are you talking about? I mean, did change dependencies. You only need like did change dependencies when, okay, so this is an interesting question. Did change dependencies is great if you're caching values off of dependencies, because if you compute them live every time, then you can just do that in the build method. But if you cache values off a dependency, which in some sense I'm obviously doing here, then you use did change dependencies to only update that cached value when the inputs for the cache change. And so like that could be what max width does. That's interesting. I think that's a really good. Oh, the mic is being held. Sofa's holding the mic because that's where the arm is coming from. Ah, okay. I get it now. That was a good joke. It made sense the whole time. Back to this. Yeah, that's interesting. I have to actually like slow down and not when I only have a couple minutes left to work on this for the stream. Ponder that because you might be onto something there, and I think that would suggest some broader changes to that, like that max width parameter. Yeah, maybe it doesn't even need to be a computed property. Maybe it could just cache the thing and then update it on did change dependencies, and that might have a positive effect as well. I can imagine that. I don't know why the change that I made broke the actual animation. That's interesting. Something about that was surprising. Okay. Anyway, what's up with Flutter? News everywhere. Should I switch? What are you using? What do you got? What's happening in your life right now? Oh, look, this is like my favorite thing. The transparency in the F of my shirt from, well, it's blue, as you all know. It's not very close to green, but the chroma key that I have set up still catches it. And it makes me look, two-dimensional. It's like, this is like if I move around, you'll see the couch behind it, and then if I move this way, you see the table behind it. Because I am actually only a two-dimensional creature. You don't know if you knew that. Most of you have not seen me in person. You can't claim otherwise. Yeah, I am only 2 dimensions, and when I turn like this, I am simulating the appearance of a 3-dimensional creature by starting to show different pixels, because I'm digital too. I'm showing different pixels as I rotate, but still as a 2-dimensional creature. What's my role on the Flutter team? I am on a team called Developer Relations, and my job is to basically do what I have been doing for the last 900 minutes, which is talk about Flutter and help people learn Flutter and try to also learn it myself so that I know what I'm talking about. That's obviously still aspirational. And yeah, I make YouTube videos and talk with you all. Yeah. Gosh, can you imagine what happens when I turn around? That would be terrifying. What do you even see? What shows up? That's a scary thought. I was thinking about simulations the other day, and obviously people love to wonder, myself included, whether or not we all live in a simulation, as I'm joking about simulating being a 3D creature. And I think I have I believe minority position amongst computer scientists. I don't think we live in a computer simulation. I think we live in the root reality. But I think there's a lot of really other interesting questions that surround whether or not we live in a simulation. Um, and one of them is that the higher the fidelity of the simulation and the more complicated the thing, I think you can get to a place where it's actually just much easier to have the real thing than it is to simulate it. Joking about how I'm showing different like pixels as I rotate, but it's just much easier to be a three-dimensional object than it is to render at life resolution and like real life fidelity a 3D object. And so if we're living in a simulation, it's really, really close to real. It's so high fidelity that I then start to wonder, what is even the difference between a sufficiently high, like a simulation that is maybe at full fidelity and reality? I don't know. Does anyone care about any of this? But like, let's say you're like going to do some research in chess, and you write a chess engine, a piece of software that knows how to intake a serialized representation of a board, strategize, and propose a move. And then you write something else that wraps it, and so now it can play against itself, and two different versions of this software can play chess. And so you're going to start doing research into chess. And then you think, well, I'm going to need like a log of all these moves so I can analyze stuff. So you just have like a pure code chess engine, and then you start writing. You have each chess engine kind of write to a file, what move did it just make? And so then your friend comes over and they look at your screen. What are you doing? I'm writing a chess engine. And they say, cool, can I see it? And you show them a file with new lines appearing in it, and you say, that's chess. And they're like, I don't know how to tell you, that isn't chess. And it's not the visualization of chess, but it is chess, right? You know that you are kind of playing chess. Chess is being played by the engine that you've written, and the harness having two versions of it. And so that visualization of chess is just like the last aspect of the simulation. But real chess is happening. The simulation is chess. There is no difference between chess on a board and chess being played between two computers, but all they're doing is looking at ones and zeros and then writing data to a file. Those are the same thing, and yet they're so different. And that makes me think about, if we live in a simulation that is as high fidelity as that chess program, which is not rendering anything, but instead just writing logs to a file, like, is there a difference between that and reality? There's not for chess. Like, maybe reality is different than chess. I don't know. I think that's fun to think about. Our brain is actually simulating most of what we see. That's true, especially on the peripheral. Eric, should we have metaphysics hour next week? Check your calendar below before you say that. Next week is an American holiday, so Observable Flutter will neither be real nor simulated next week. The US and all of its people will be checked out on Thursday and on Friday, and then I will be back on December 5th. I've got a guest already lined up. It's going to be, I think, a really exciting episode, and I'm looking forward to it. But if you're not in the States and you go to work on Thursday and then you come home and you're ready to watch a stream, first of all, you need more hobbies. But secondly, I didn't forsake you. I'm just having an American holiday on my end. So that will, I think, do it for today. More metaphysics in the future. Probably not on December 5th, what with the guest, but after that, I don't have a guest yet. So maybe more metaphysics. Let's see, any other. All right, here we go. Oh, someone's weighing in. This is great. Oh, actually, no, there was more before. Eric also said, you really think a lot of computer science believe in a simulation? Yeah, I think so. I think I have the minority position in that debate. I think if we ask all of our coworkers, Eric, we will find most people think we live in a simulation. It's a theory about others' theories. Controversial reply on Flock. Oh, that will be. You are a great troll, and I love it. And I just saw the word controversial, so I clicked it. That is my kind of trolling. As a college student, should you proceed with Flutter? There's a lot of, depends kind of where you live as well. I think the job market is different in different places. But the Flutter job market is growing 100%. There's more and more big and small companies using Flutter every month than there was the previous month. I think that Flutter is a great thing to use if you want to make UIs. If you want to be like a backend developer, if you want to be a data scientist, you want to be, there's a lot of different things you can do. If you want to be a game developer, obviously you can make games in Flutter, but there's way more advanced game engines out there. I wouldn't use those. I use Flame, but that's mostly just because I'm a Flutter junkie, and also I'm not actually making super serious games. I can think of like 5 that I know of, like super serious games in that have been written in Flame. So it's possible. But if you're going to be a game developer, maybe you learn, Unity or not Unity. We don't talk about Unity anymore. Godot or Unreal or something. So like, there's a lot of valid options. But if you're using Flutter and you're enjoying it, then I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't continue. What I tell everyone, you must learn Flutter. It's the only way to have a satisfying life. No, of course not. Ayushman says, you live in India, right? If you do, then the Flutter job market is very popular. Yeah, for sure. Okay, folks, that will do it for today. Thank you all for tuning in. I had a great time pontificating about both old code and the nature of the fabric of reality. And we'll do both of those again in the future. But until then, stay safe, everyone, and happy fluttering.